Happy Saturday, everyone. Here's another process video, and this one's using my Whimsidoodle design team package. Here's a photo of what came in the design team package, which was the Amy Tan Plus One collection. The next photo that you see is what I chose out of my stash to use along with my design team package because I knew I needed some circular embellishments. So the very first thing you see me doing here is I'm using this very old tool from Making Memories. It's probably 10 years old. And it's a tool to cut circles. It has these little guides that you see me putting on the paper, and then razors in these circular devices that hold the razor, and you slide them around the guide to cut different sized circles. So I knew I wanted to use that ribbon that came in my design team package to make my own embellishments in a creative way. I don't ever buy ribbon that comes from different companies, so since I got it in a design team package, this was a good opportunity for me to kind of go out of my comfort zone, and I'm really happy with the way that things turned out. So I'm just picking different Amy Tan papers to cut the circles in various sizes because those circles are going to go across the center of my paper. And here I'm cutting one out of the cut apart paper in this yellow take a picture tag, but I don't end up using that one. I decided not to use any yellow on the layout and to sort of just stick with the orange. So that is the only circle that I cut that does not make it onto the layout. So I'm continuing to cut circles. Here's where I decide to go with orange instead of yellow because I really like this paper and I wanted the arrows to sort of point to the pictures when it was laid out on the 12 by 12 layout. And my background is avalanche cardstock. However, I used the non-textured side because I knew I was going to use some of those Ali Edwards stamps and it just stamps better on the flat surface. I'm using that paper across the middle, that little strip, to just sort of ground all my circles so that they're not just floating in the center of the page. And you barely see any of it at the end, but you can see the tips of it. And so I like the way that that looks, that it's sort of cohesive around the center. And now I'm taking two white pieces of scrap paper and I'm going to cut circles out of there to start making my embellishments. And I knew I was going to be stapling ribbon onto it, so I just wanted a scrap piece of paper where the staples would be, and then I'd cover it with designer paper so that the staples aren't exposed. There's a lot of circle cutting in this. I did edit some of it out, but I guess I could have edited a little bit more out for you guys. So now I'm taking a look at the ribbon, and it came in a couple different colors, and I'm just picking out the ones that really are in the layout and are prominent in the layout, and then I'm cutting them into about 3.5 to 4 inch strips, and you'll see me doing that here. I guess I could have cut out, I think I might have turned my camera off because I had to take the wrappings off of all these ribbons and it became really monotonous. So yeah, I turned the camera off and turned it back on. And now I'm cutting out one more little circle, but I don't even, oh yeah, I do end up using it. I have two different circles that I'm going to surround with ribbon, and you're only going to see a half moon part of that embellishment on the top and bottom of the layout. So you'll see that happen as I go along. I'm drinking coffee there. Sorry that you keep seeing it in the camera. And so now I'm just pulling the ribbon open. Getting my staple gun out, and I think I had to reload it with more staples because I knew I would be doing a lot of stapling. And oh, I cut out a lot of it. Sorry guys, what I did was, here you'll see me make a few. I just made a loop and then I put it on the edge and stapled it, and I made this little puffy, very dimensional embellishment. And I wanted it just to be a half moon on the top and bottom, so I made the larger one for the top, and now I'm working on the smaller one on the bottom. And I'm just alternating colors, stapling it on until it's in a half moon shape, and you'll see me cut the rest off the layout as we go along. Here I'm making the smaller one for the bottom. This layout was pretty time consuming. I believe it took me about an hour and 50 minutes to do, and I think it's because I cut a lot of my own embellishments and then I made these two ribbon ones, and that took some time to get them lined up perfectly and just to really look nice. And you see me trimming it because I cut the ribbon a little too long, so it was overlapping in the back and making the embellishment too bulky. So now I'm just trying to see where I want them and if I want to add a little bit more ribbon on that bottom one. But I decide that I like that it's smaller than the top one, and now I'm just picking designer paper to go over where I stapled on that white piece of paper. And I picked this very prominent black pattern for the top, and then I pick one with white, prominently white and black on it for the bottom, which is this paper that I really like. There was one paper that came in my design team package that I knew I wanted to use for another layout as a background paper, so I had to put it to the side because the B side was green and I kept wanting to cut into it accidentally, so I had to sort of hide it away so that I didn't accidentally cut a circle out of it. But now I'm just making a cover for that top one, and I just use my ATG gun to adhere it, and then I'm going to put the entire embellishment on the layout using dimensional adhesive, so you'll see me do that in a little bit. Here I am just putting that on, and I'm placing it exactly where I want it. However, again, I don't want it floating, so I do end up putting a piece of washi tape at the bottom to sort of ground that. And I also knew my title was going to go across the bottom, so I wanted something for my title to sit on. Here I'm just cutting it so that it looks the way I want it to look, and I really like those embellishments. That's not something I typically do on my layouts, and I don't always make my layouts ultra bulky, but when they display my layouts in the store, they go in a shadow box, so I figured it would be okay. There'd be plenty of room for dimension, and I just thought that this was like a fun way to use the ribbon. So now I'm just sort of trying to get an idea of my layout again. I think I did take a picture of how I laid out the center with my camera, or I'm going to do that. I think I get it in a way that I like all those circles, but I needed to start adhering stuff, so, and I also want it to splatter a little mist, so I think I take a photo before I move on. That little number 1 chic tag circle that you see on the right hand side of the screen doesn't end up making it on the layout. It was too muddy looking, and I didn't really know where the 1 fit into the layout theme. These photos are from that's my sister-in-law, and that's, you know, my daughter Reagan, and we were at a party for a family member's daughter, who I believe was turning 6 or 7, I can't remember. And so this is just about that party, and you can see in the first photo on the left hand side that she is playing with silly string. They had a silly string kind of like war. All the kids got little cans of it and shot it at each other, so it was fun. Here I want to stamp just one circular stamp of the Technique Tuesday, and I'm using Sour Apple ink, and I was just lining up where I wanted it, and then I had to move everything else. I wanted it somewhere where you could still see that it says "This is Life," but that it melded in with all the other circles from the paper that I cut out with my Memory Keepers circle die. Now I'm lining each one with just one stroke of the pen. I didn't go around multiple times like I normally do, and this is an 08 pen, precision pen from American Crafts, excuse me. So I'm going around each circle just so that they don't get lost into the background, and I thought since black and there's so much black in this paper collection and it's so graphic that it would be okay to do that. And also I would typically sew instead of do the lines. However, I don't like sewing on circles. I'm very bad at it, and it always comes out really crazy bad, so I decided this would be less time consuming. And I kind of wish, in looking back at this layout, that I stamped one more of those Allie Edwards circles somewhere else, maybe on the bottom right, to just kind of even it out. But I didn't end up doing that because I liked too much the way I already had the circles laid out, and I didn't want to disrupt the pattern by adding another circle with that stamp. And that color box ink stamps really good using those Allie Edwards stamps. It filled in, and there was no white blotchy spaces when it was all said and done. So now you see my phone to the right of me, and I'm just referencing the way I had it laid out previously to make sure that it stays in that same pattern. And here's where I'm kind of making the circles snug around that stamp without covering the sentiment on it, because I wanted to make sure you could see that. And that one circle that was already pre-cut that has the hearts, the craft hearts on the left-hand side. That's from Chic Tags. And is it from Chic Tags or L? No, I'm sorry. It's from L Studio. I have my paper right here. I should probably reference it. Yeah, it's from L Studio. And I didn't like those craft hearts. There's no craft in the paper collection, so I do end up covering those up with puffy stickers later. But I thought it was a good place to put my journaling. So I think I stop at one point and get a 0.1 pen and just write my journaling on there using black ink. Now I'm trying to decide what to ground that bottom embellishment with, and at first I considered putting ribbon across the bottom, but it was too thin, so I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, so I moved on to these die cuts to see if I wanted to put any in my cluster of circles. I knew I wanted to use those balloons. It's a party theme, and I just thought that that's a good opportunity to use those and they'd be cute. And then I considered doing this ice cream cone because they had snow cones, not snow cones, they had Italian ice at the party, but I think I end up taking that off and not using it. So I'm just trying to decide what else, and that was another circle element, but it touched too closely to the top embellishment I made out of ribbon, so I end up taking it off my layout. Excuse me, guys. Now I have some of those on-trend buttons and brads, and I'm trying to find one that I want to put on the layout. This is Passport Mr. Huey that I'm splattering, and of course I didn't completely cover my photo, so I got a little bit of it on my photo, but it wiped right off with a baby wipe, so I was happy about that. And now I decided that I wanted to use this circle that I cut out and never got to use on my layout to just kind of put underneath that embellishment in the background. I just thought it added something, and that once I put a piece of paper or a piece of washi on the bottom across it, it would ground it. Here I decided to go with this washi from Freckled Fawn. It's kind of a bright magenta pink, and it has a white stripe throughout it. And now I'm just sort of lining everything up on the bottom because I'm making room for me to put the title on the right hand side of this little cluster that I'm making. Taking the adhesive off the back of that dimensional tape, and I'm laying everything down, and I'm really liking the way that this layout looks. Now I'm adding some flair. This first layer is from Etsy. I can't remember the name of the store. I'll have to look it up, but it's just kind of looks like a hand-drawn arrow, so I'm having that point to the photo of my sister-in-law and daughter. And I knew I wanted to add another flair next to the other photo, but I couldn't decide which one I wanted to use, so I just hold out. These Amy Tan stickers I'm in love with. These have to be my favorite alphabets that have come out in a very long time. They're very sketchy and bright, and I just love them. So my title is Party Time, so I write the word party in one color, which is kind of a blackish gray, and then I write the word time using another Thickers collection, Amy Tan thicker that's called, let me tell you, Match. It's called Match, and it also came in my design team package. I didn't want everything to be completely linear, so I put the word time a little lower than party, and I know I'm going to put something in the center of those two to sort of separate the two words, so you'll see me do that in a second. I added an exclamation point. I just felt it was appropriate, and here I'm adding my journaling to the layout. And I was trying to be very conscientious of the fact that I would be using something to cover up those hearts. I just didn't know what I was going to be using yet. And my journaling says, Reagan had a blast spending time with her aunt at Kira's birthday party. They played with silly string and had fun. So now I added, the puffy stickers had the same cluster of balloons, and I just thought they were cute to add in the center of party time, and so I decided to use the die cut balloons too at the top of the layout just to sort of make them bring your eye to both the top and the bottom. I cut a strip of that same paper I used in the center of my layout to ground the top embellishment that I created, and I think I let it overhang a little bit, so I had to cut some of it off. And now there was a little bit of white showing below the This Is Life stamp, so I used this little heart geotag to point to the photo and sort of cover up that space that was bothering me. I did not put any of the circles in the center of the layout on dimensionals as I typically would, just to add some texture, because the other embellishments that I handmade were so bulky that I didn't want to add to the layout any more bulk. And now I decide to use this on-trend brad here to bring a little more black into the collection. It has like a floral print on it, which I thought was fitting since that paper on the left-hand side also had a floral print. And I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I think I'm looking at my brads, trying to find which one I want it to put to the left of that photo. Oh no, I'm trying to fill in that center exposed piece, and I think I end up cutting another circle out of this orange paper, but like a small one. Yep, and so I just put that in the center to just cover up that empty space. And I just remembered that I needed to outline it since I had done all the other circles, so that's what I'm doing right now. Adhering it right in the middle without covering, you know, important parts of the photo. And that is the flare that I decided to use on the layout because it had that nice blue color. It's from an old American Crafts collection, and I got it at Tuesday Morning. The only thing that was really irritating me was that it said my party, and it wasn't Reagan's party, it was someone else's party. So that was sort of bothering me, and I think at one point you'll see me try to switch the flare, but then I was just at acceptance that one, color-wise and theme-wise, since it had the word party and a balloon on it, most fit what was on the layout, and so I was just going to accept the fact that it said my party. And I thought if down the road it was still bothering me, I could always put like an enamel dot over the word my, since it was so small. Here I'm adding dimensional adhesive to the balloons, and I want them floating right overhead of Reagan and her aunt to the left-hand side, sort of covering some of that floral paper was my plan. And that dimensional adhesive was from the dollar section. I think it's Studio G at, I can't remember if it was Michael's or Joann's. So I'm adding that on. I also outlined that. And it was bothering me that there wasn't color between the word party and time, since the embellishment of the balloons was black and gray. So I think I add one pink enamel dot. I started to do a cluster up here, and then I didn't like the way that it looked. I thought the blues conflicted in color, and so I just took it off and put it back on my little plastic. Thought about using some of those and then changed my mind, and I must have missed the point that I put those puffy sticker hearts over the craft hearts, but I really like the way that that looked. And yeah, I think I'm done with the layout now. I'm taking a final look, and I think you'll see some photos. Oh, this is where I decide to switch the flare, but I don't end up doing it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll have some photos at the end, and there'll be another layout using this collection soon. Bye.